And I'm going to share my screen. So when I'm in this mode, I can't see everybody, but Nina's there to hop in. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or unmute yourself and let us know your questions. Let me see. Right, let's get started. We are so excited you are all here today. Today we are going to chat about creating authentic friendships for neurodivergent children and our experiences as clinicians on creating these wonderful authentic friendships. Now, for the purpose of this presentation, we want to make sure that we are clear on how we're using the language. So Nina and I will be using identity first language, which means that we will be saying autistic child rather than person first language, which would be child with autism. That is what typically the autistic community has been saying, that they prefer that language. We are neurodiversity affirming clinicians, which means that we see autism, ADHD, any other diagnoses, not as a disorder, but rather a difference. So we are here to embrace your child in all the wonderful things that they have to offer, and we look at their strengths and help bridge those gaps that may be occurring. So for all those that have joined us, thank you so much. I know it's late and I know we have bedtime and dinner times and all the wonderful parent things that we have to do. So if you have your cameras off and your microphones off, it's totally fine. If you'd like to ask questions or keep your camera on and keep it interactive, we would love that as well. Oh, we have somebody from North Carolina, formerly from Warren, New Jersey. I love that. I used to live in North Carolina. We have some from Rahway. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for us to chat about this topic because it's something that we are both very passionate about. And Dr. Joni as well. She unfortunately is not able to make it to today's presentation, but I hope we can all hop in together and still have fun. So a little bit about us. My name is Farwa Husain. I'm a speech language pathologist and I'm the owner of One-on-One Speech Therapy. We are moms first and foremost, and Dr. Joni is all things body and movement. She's the physical therapist and owner of Kid PT. And I'm going to let Nina introduce herself.
Yeah, I'm Nina Britz. I'm an occupational therapist and I work in Joni's clinic in Raritan, New Jersey as her occupational therapist. And then I'm also the occupational therapist for our Connect and Play program, which is amazing.
So much fun. Our mission here is to support and build a supportive community for neurodivergent individuals, children, and parents alike. We love what we do. And one of our favorite things that's helped build this community is working together with families, working together as interdisciplinary clinicians. I am a speech therapist. Nina does occupational therapy. Dr. Joni does physical therapy. We also consult with psychologists, psychiatrists, teachers, music teachers, yoga teachers, and all those wonderful clinicians. The one thing we ask from you is to come in with an open mind because every child is different and all their needs are always different and unique to them. So what are we chatting about? We are chatting about friendship. And friendship looks different for everyone. We have to make sure that we're coming in from the mindset and we're putting away that medical model. Medical model means all the deficits of or all the thoughts that we think of what neurotypical friendship looks like, which looks like eye contact, sharing, conversational turn taking, asking questions. And we know that many neurodivergent individuals make friendships, but their friendship looks very different. So what we are wanting from our children is to have authentic friendships. And many autistic individuals in the community have spoken about this, and they talk about wanting friendships, having a deep feeling of loneliness, and wanting deep relationships. Now, fun fact is that many autistic individuals have incredible empathy and have more empathy than neurotypical individuals. Our neurodivergent children's brains are wired so beautifully that they have extra connections throughout their brain, and their connections are in different spots for every individual. And this is a very heterogeneous population, meaning that every child is different. So if you have one autistic child, means if I've seen one autistic child, I've only seen one autistic child, because every child is unique and different. But at the core, they are all seeking friendships and relationships, and they're going to look different. Now, we're going to get into something that is called the double empathy problem. In research, they had called it the double empathy theory. And what the theory was, it stated that individuals that were neurotypical could only understand themselves, and they had a hard time understanding neurodivergent children. And the same thing happened with neurodivergent children. Neurodivergent individuals could only understand other neurodivergent individuals, and they had a hard time understanding and taking the perspective of a neurotypical. During the research study, they had proposed that that is because our neurodivergent children couldn't see the way typical children do. And the autistic community has since then said that this is a very ableist thought process. And it's really the double empathy problem, which means that neurotypical individuals are having a really hard time understanding how we think, and how we think is beautiful. So the neurodivergent autistic children can create beautiful friendships. They do it in what is meaningful for them, and they're able to understand others that think like them and are neurodivergent. So the double empathy problem is challenges in interactions between autistic and non-autistic individuals is a two-way issue. Connection difficulties stem from misunderstanding and differences in communication and processing, which leads to empathy. And I'll let Nina take over on this one.
Sure. So empathy is the sense of understanding and experiencing what someone else might be feeling in the moment, putting yourself in someone else's shoes and understanding what they might need and be there to support them. And alexithymia, am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah. So alexithymia is the inability to identify emotions due to difficulty with interoception. Now, many of our neurodivergent individuals and autistic children have alexithymia. This is documented. Now, this means that they have the inability to identify emotions because the emotions look differently for them. This does not mean that they lack emotion. As a therapist, I'm going on year 13, 14 maybe. In the beginning, I was taught that I needed to teach kids emotions. And it was sadness, happiness, frustration, mad. Are you happy? Are you sad? Or are you mad? Those were the three emotions that I was taught. And I didn't realize that it looks different for every child. Now that I've embraced neurodiversity affirming practices and I'm listening to autistic adults, they are letting us know that alexithymia shows up in how they're even labeling emotions, which means that sadness could feel like a little tickle in the throat, which makes them want to cry. Sadness could look like emotions of different colors. Some autistic individuals see it as fruits or vegetables. So how they see it is we need to hone in on how they are seeing it so they can correctly identify it, because being able to correctly identify their emotions will help with their interoception, and that helps with lifelong success. And I'm going to let Nina let you know a little bit about interoception.
So interoception is is actually an eighth sense. You learn all these different senses, how you see, how you smell, but interoception is a sort of a more complex one because it's our ability to notice and understand our inner body signals. So I like to say it's like inside out learning. And then you're noticing and understanding the body signals, and then you attach and connect an emotion to those feelings you're having. And then the last step is you're learning to manage what comes up with those feelings. And interoception is the foundation for emotional regulation. So there's a couple different ways of looking at it. Like when your stomach hurts, you could be feeling nervous, you could be hungry, and deciphering those two feelings and then also when you're nervous, what kind of body signals are you getting from your body, and are you aware of them? So your palms get sweaty, your heart starts racing, you flush in your face. That general awareness is what interoception is.
Now, I was not taught to teach interoception or even think about interoception. It was just like label the emotion without realizing that labeling will do no good unless they can figure out from the inside what that feels like. Now, play is very important to creating friendships, and that is the best way a child learns. We are play-based therapists and child-led, which means that what we do is let the child lead. Play fosters confidence, independence, lifelong learning. That's where real neural connections happen. And as our skills evolve, our play evolves. And there is a hierarchy to play. Play should be natural. It should be intrinsically motivating, meaning the child should be the one in charge and not adult directed. And when we say it's natural, we're letting them have their interests, and we're just going to go along with it if they have a special interest, which we're going to speak in a little bit about. We want to make sure we're fostering that. Now, play evolves as the skills evolve, which means initially it might be that the child is playing in isolation and they're playing and opening and closing doors, open and close, open and close. Then they might want to have a little bit of joint attention, which looks like maybe an eye gaze, an eye contact, being close to you. Some kids will put a toe on me. And then we build on reciprocal back and forth play, object play, and then higher level play, which is imaginary play. As their language evolves, that play will evolve too. So we want to make sure that we're creating places of yes. Most of our autistic individuals and children have heard no. I think what the latest study I was reading on was they received like 20,000 times more no's than yeses. So what we want to do is create safe spaces for them where we can just let them be and have opportunities to say yes. Very rarely do I say no in my sessions. So if a child wants to do things, like if you look at the top picture, the child was hanging off the monkey bars, your first instinct would be like, no, don't do that. But we know that we're creating the safe space and the child is going to be safe, so they are more motivated to do it. And we start off with giving them empowering phrases. I can do this. I am smart. I am strong. I am brave. And when they get up there, it is so amazing to see their confidence boost and see how they're learning. And these foundational skills will translate into academic success and lifelong success.
I think also, just to speak to that picture, is letting children take play risks is so big. Like we're always trying to keep, obviously safety is important, but keeping them within what perhaps we feel safe in. And just, we have to remember that their bubbles might be a little bigger. They might need a little more rest, more movement, more fidgeting. So we can't use our own gauge and put that on them. It should really be like a child-led, and it should always be changing, following their lead.
Which leads us to movement beautifully. So movement is the foundation of exploration, engagement, and communication. It's the universal language of play. And just like Nina said, is that we want to harness that movement, because what it does, helps us make new connections in our brain. It really lights up that brain. When our brain is doing new novel things and experiencing new movement activities, we're really firing it up. So it's activated for learning. So if your child, and Nina will speak more on this, is if your child is kind of just like you're just hanging out down low and not moving, and is the most compliant kiddo and is like so wonderful and won't move around. And if you tell him to sit, he'll just sit in one place. We want them to start learning, we got to move their body. And vice versa. If your child is jumping off the couch and running around and wanting to move and touch everything, we need to create the opposite, and we need to create a sense of calm when it's time for learning. Nina, do you have anything to add on that movement piece?
I guess when you were talking, it just made me also think of co-regulation, and
Yeah.
using your own self to activate someone else. And if someone is too activated, using yourself to help calm them down. And that to me always is movement, especially when kids, you know, kids speak, communicate, and connect through movement in their body. So really being in tune that way and co-regulating part of what we do.
Yeah. And I know you're thinking, okay, this topic is supposed to be about friendships. How are we
Yeah.
coming off track on that? But all these are foundations to get your child ready to connect with others. That's why we're chatting about this, because it's important to create these spaces for our children. Now, creating these authentic friendship means that we want to honor their special interests. And SPINS is a fancy way of saying special interests. Many of our autistic children have something that they're really passionate about and they really, really enjoy. We never want to take these special interests away from them, and we never want to use them as a reward. First, you're going to do this work, then you can have your animals. First, you're going to do this, then you can watch a particular clip that they might be having, that they might absolutely love. Or if they're into presidents, don't say it just yet. I have some children that say all the presidents from start. Stop. You got to wait. First, you do this, then you can have it. That's not what we want to do. What we want to do is honor and acknowledge all their special interests. And now, we will also want to find activities that embraces their special interests. One thing that I do want to talk about when we talk about special interests is monotropism. That is a laser focus and focus attention on one area or a few areas of interest. They will really love and enjoy and immerse themselves in that special interest, whether it be sea animals, whether it be just dolphins, whether like I have in that corner, whether it be car washes. That's my friend on top who just absolutely loves car washes and all the different types of car washes, and has done a road trip throughout the state on the different car washes. And it's so amazing to see how much that our child will learn when we're honoring these areas of focus. And we want to make sure that we're not taking away. When we do take away special interests and we're not honoring it, what happens is it creates a sense of anxiety. So one thing that's very, very important for us as parents and as clinicians to think about is how we are creating this and honoring their interests. When we learn and when we acquire our brain development, it starts from the back to the front. The back part of brain is the survival brain. It tells us how we're breathing, our lungs are developing, and it gives us a sense of fight, flight, fear. And so this is our safety brain. Then we start moving up to language, memory, and the front part of our brain is our interests, and it's our connection, and it's all the higher level things. So we want to make sure that your child is outside that fight, flight, lower brain part. We want to activate the front part of the brain, and we can only do that by making sure we're creating a sense of safety. If we take away those spins, it causes a lot of anxiety. It causes them to break what we call Gestalt cognitive processing. Children learn, and many of our autistic children learn in episodes, and they will learn language in chunks. So if you are breaking an episode and they haven't had the skills to learn how to move out of it and to have that fluidity, and then they're really just stuck in fight, flight, fear mode. Autistic burnout happens here. This is where a lot of stress happens. In order for us to get them to a place where they're making meaningful connections, having friendships, we want to make sure that we're doing this first. We're honoring them. We're honoring their interests. And just by even spending 10 minutes with them on their special interest or less, you are going to create more opportunities for learning and success for them. Now, we want to find activities that they embrace that embraces their interest. So if they like animals, we're going to plan zoo dates. If they like Pokemon or anime, join those Pokemon and anime clubs. If they like presidents, if you go to the White House website, you can actually request postcards from the presidents on your birthday. Allow the child to info dump. Info dump is when they are coming in and talking about their special interests and just kind of dumping it outside. And letting you know everything about it from start to finish. If it's Transformers, it might be episode 1 to the last episode and last movie on it. And Carolyn Gaddy is a wonderful autistic SLP that presents on this topic on friendships and special interests. And she says when autistic individuals get together and they info dump, they're not talking over each other. The turn taking looks different because it's not neurotypical, but what they're doing is layering on and enhancing each other's conversation and actually listening to their special interests while telling their own. So we want to make sure that we're changing our mindset on what that looks like and what turn taking looks like and what and how we view their special interests.
Oh, I have a question about that.
Yes.
For children who are nonverbal and maybe are still just communicating with their body, are certain like activities that are only involve movement, or are they also considered spins, or is spins specifically for kids who are verbal and can
spins is for all
communicate?
individuals.
Yeah.
Yes, spins is special interest for any individual. So if your child is non-speaking and does not have mouth words, they will let you know what their interests are. It might be YouTube clips of certain videos, Bluey, Bubble Guppies, whatever it might be. If they're going back over it and over and over again on a certain clip, they may be using that clip to communicate. They may be using that clip as a synthesizer and using it to regulate themselves. They might actually really enjoy the way it sounds. So we really want to hone in and do the detective work to figure out what their special interests are. And honestly, I've never had a parent not let me know what their child's special interest is.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so in tune, and we don't need mouth words to show us that we're really liking something.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we're looking at communication. And that communication doesn't have to be with our words. It could be with our body. It could be with a slight eye contact. It could be what we constantly gravitate towards. So many parents, most all parents, know what their children love. And they're like, oh yeah, that's what they love. And then when we start looking at it from a lens of a detective and how they're using it, then it really gets a lot of fun for me and for the parents, because they're like, oh my gosh, my child's a genius. Yes, they are. They're so incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, special interests are beautiful, and we want to honor that no matter what level of communication your child is using. And I even hate to say level, but however your child is communicating. And if your child is non-speaking, I do highly recommend that we start them on early access to communication, which would be like a dynamic AAC system. And there's no prerequisite to that. We want to make sure that we're really honing in and letting them communicate.
All right.
Yeah,
So yeah. I feel like I'm gonna talk about some different sensory profiles and how that could impact a child's feeling of safety in the space they're in. I feel like I could do like a whole course on that by itself. So I'm gonna just briefly go over. If anybody has any questions, let me know. But most importantly, creating a safe space can help a child unmask, and that basically just means that they can show their true self, express their true interests, and not feel like they have to fit into a certain mold in order to be accepted. Sometimes there's a lot of boundaries in classrooms or in certain family dynamics. So allowing for that unmasking will relax that lower part of the brain and allow for more emotional processing and hopefully more higher level like executive function and emotional regulation skills. So setting up the environment for exploration, but keep in mind the need for breaks and retreat. And there are 4 main sensory profiles that I'm gonna touch on. And 2 of them, the children have really, really big sensory cups that they need to fill. And then the other 2 is they have smaller sensory cups. So you're seeing them a little bit more sensitive and more avoidant. And the high threshold kiddos, so the kids who are less reactive and have the larger cups, these are the kids we see not noticing changes in the environment as much and creating change for themselves. So the fidgeters, the fast-paced crashers, the loud music, the blinking lights, the go fasters, and leaning on people, leaning on objects, the touchers. And then the other side of the spectrum are the kiddos who are a lot quicker to respond to changes in the environment. They might not like loud sounds. They might not like the lights to be on so bright. They might not like touch. They might be a little bit on guard and a little bit more in that fight or flight place. And what's interesting about our Connect and Play program is that we have kiddos with all the different profiles. So what we really did was we created a blank slate and allowed the kids to show us what they need and how they need the environment to support their sensory profile. And it was also really interesting because we'd had people across the spectrums of the profiles, but they found a way to interact with each other. For example, one kiddo really liked to sing really loud and he had a special interest in a certain song. So every day we did that certain song and the certain movements, and our more sensitive kiddos had their noise canceling headphones on and they started in a farther room and we made a room with dim lights and where they could escape the sound and the movement. But slowly, day by day, they got more accustomed to the routine and they felt more safe and they could participate with the sensory strategies in place. That was really nice.
Yeah, and then the coolest part was that their language started to change.
Yeah.
We were able to do that Gestalt cognitive processing. And we were able to move through that cognitive.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So it went from, and I'm just going to share it. It went from, we're going on a bear hunt. We're going on a Yeti hunt. We're going on and then we changed it through. And by the end of our Connect and Play, we didn't even need to sing the song and it was just words, right? We were able
and the
to.
headphones came off, right?
Yeah. The headphone came off. Dr. Jillian Boudreau is a psychologist who speaks on safety. And she says a smart brain is a safe brain. Safe brain is a smart brain. Meaning when you create these opportunities for our children to feel safe, then they can really focus in on that learning and that connection that we so crave for our children.
Yeah, we have to allow them to take the guard down so they can really self-motivate and show us what they need and how they need it.
Now, the question that we get asked so often is, how do you support families and sibling relationships? This is very important, and this goes back to, we're going to accept all forms of communication, gesture, mouth words, YouTube, AAC communication. And most of the time, our parents know exactly what the children want before we give them, they even ask, right? Before I would tell, when I wasn't a neurodiversity affirming clinician, when I thought that I knew everything, I would tell parents, you have to wait for the child to make a sound. You have to wait till they use their mouth words. And that's not the case. I look back at myself and I'm like, oh, why would you say that? We want to encourage our children by giving them safe spaces. You can communicate anyway, with whether it be gestures, whether it be with your device when you're talker, whether it be pulling up a YouTube clip of Bluey saying something, whether it be mouth words. When we model the right language around our children, they will then start. Our goal is we're going to enrich their environment where they start communicating it more with any form that they want. And we're going to move them through their stages and build this beautiful enriched language environment. That goes same with their siblings as well. So what you're doing with, if you have an older child, this enriching environment that you can do is going to help support all your children. And just because your body and eyes aren't looking doesn't mean that they're not participating. You don't need to say, hey, look at me. Hey, where's your body? Come closer. Because many times our neurodivergent children have difficulty in that area, but that doesn't mean that their mind and are not connected. Like that doesn't mean that they're not here listening and participating. And one thing I want to say to this is we always want to give them time. We're in this fast-paced world that we're constantly wanting to be like, move on. Like, I got dinner, I gotta get the homework done, I gotta get laundry done, let's just go. Many times we need to pause and take a second, and realize that it might be us. Maybe we just need to take a moment. And I have to check myself as a parent all the time with my middle one. And be
Co-regulation.
like, oh,
Again, the co-regulation, because if you get hyped up and you're frantic and you're getting ready and everything has to get done in the next 5 minutes, the children are going to meet you there. They're going to match you. They're going to mirror you. So that co-regulation piece is very important in a family dynamic.
yeah. And I was telling you the story too, the other day when we had those snow days, my son missed his bus. He saw it pass by. He came inside the house.
Yeah.
And my stomach hurts. And my other son, I had to drop my other son off from school. And I was like, you missed your bus. We gotta go. And then he's like running from the bathroom out. He's like, the bus came. I saw it left. And then I was like, oh, wait. Okay. I need to take a second. It's okay. Tell me, then I went through the basic like survival modes. Are you hungry? Do you have to go to the bathroom? No. And I was like, tell me exactly what happened. He goes, somebody told me to leave. I saw the bus. I missed it. I was like, oh, you're feeling anxious. Oh, you're feeling a little bit nervous because you don't know what to do next, right? This is a great opportunity for learning because now we can attach meaning to that feeling of, oh, that stomach hurting, butterfliesy feeling, and then give them those executive functioning skills of planning and what do I do next? All right, I missed the bus. I can come home. Hopefully mom's not at work and you can drop me to school. I might be late and that's okay. And one thing that's very important is having an open conversation as a family on the support and activities that are going to upcoming activities beforehand so everybody can share in the enjoyment and everybody knows what the supports are. So if we are in a loud party that we have to go to, say we have to go to a family gathering, we have to make sure that we're discussing it together. Hey, you know what? Johnny might not like it really loud and he might go into a corner and I'll create a safe space for them. We might even want to ask our family members beforehand, if I'm there and if my son needs to leave or my daughter needs to leave, is there a safe place that we can go to or a safe corner spot in the house that we can go to or a venue that you can seek out? Always have accommodations ready for them, headphones, their iPad if that's what they need to regulate themselves, and make sure we're having that conversation with the siblings as well. And we're involving them in this because one thing that we don't want is for our other siblings to feel left out, to feel like they're not getting enough attention. I recently had a parent tell me they got a late diagnosis of autism themselves after going through the process with their child and said, gosh, I wish my parents would have shared that. I wish that my sibling didn't get all the attention because they were autistic, and they just, kind of pushed me aside, and I wasn't autistic enough for them. So we want to make sure that we're giving all of our children support and accommodations. And I know this part is hard. And as a mom of 3, being in more than one space for more than one child is hard. But having that open conversation about what the child needs, and then it's incredible what the other siblings have to offer and how they will help co-regulate and how they will help come up with those plans together and be like, oh, my son's same size. Fives needs this. Okay, let me give him this. I think this might help him. And then you're like, oh yeah, what do you think? So, and we have to give them that space and the opportunity to be themselves, because our children are really incredible and really in tune with a lot of different things.
Well, and what a beautiful place to go back to another slide. What a beautiful place to teach and work on empathy, right? With siblings. Really, siblings of autistic children probably have a more in-depth knowledge of empathy earlier than other children, I would imagine. Both ways. Yeah. Both
ways. So can you talk to us about the sensory strategies?
Yeah, you mentioned it a little bit, like, for example, at a birthday party, having certain things already prepared, having, your fidgets, having your snacks if you need a snack break, any kind of headphones. Snacks. Yeah, always snacks.
Yeah, no, and I was going to say preferred snacks.
Yeah.
Preferred snacks. If that means that they like bland saltine crackers, then that's okay. When we're going to places that are new. We never want to try new strategies without giving them the support beforehand. So I'm not going to be like, all right, today we're going to go out to dinner at a restaurant, and I'm not going to take the iPad because you have to talk to me. Oh, I'm only setting up myself for failure because they haven't learned the skills to be without it.
Yeah, and being just sort of predicting the things that could cause dysregulation and having a strategy and just feeling confident going into the situation for your child.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk about how this leads to our wonderful Connect and Play program. We do have a transformative immersive program here in New Jersey. It's for our autistic and neurodivergent children, ages 4 to 10. And what we are doing is really honoring them and supporting their needs in all forms and as a whole child. So we provide, will you share what our Connect and Play provides?
Sure. So I'm there, I'm the OT, and Dr. Joni is there, she's the PT, and then Miss Farwa is there, she's the speech therapist. We had an amazing yoga teacher. We had creative movement. This summer we're going to have a drumming program with drumming circles, and we're going to have art and more music. And then on Fridays, it's a family day. So the children and their families, and including siblings and everybody, they go to a horse farm, and they do horseback riding, and they get to play with goats, and they run around with cats, and they get to play in the dirt. So it's a really well-rounded week. And we are actually doing it for a 2-week sequence this year. Last year we had 1 week, but we were finding that we were really just tapping into who the children were and what they need, and so we added a 2nd week.
And that's when the true magic started happening. When children are in the program for more than 1 week, we're really making these beautiful gains in their communication, their sensory systems, and their bodies. And what we are so driven and passionate about is making sure that these evidence-based practices are translating into fun activities that's going to create lifelong success. So that way the children are getting the supports of PT, OT, speech, and having this multimodal communication enriched environment where we're really learning and setting our children up. So we are so excited that you guys are here. Feel free to pop in any questions that you have. If there's any comments that you have about our presentation. So we do want to encourage families to keep building these relationships with yourselves, with your children, and with the friends that they're making. And if you give them the space to do so, they will thrive.
I really connected with the spins. I've been thinking a lot, I didn't have the term, but I've been thinking about that lately with my son who is about to be 9. And him wanting to, he has some friends, but I wouldn't say he's as connected with them as, one would expect with the neurotypical child. Um, and he's, very interested in Minecraft and trains, and he can kind of go off on tangents, and doesn't have a good gauge of like, okay, they're not really interested. Let's move it along. So anyway, I recently learned that there is at the Somerset County 4-H, they have a train masters program. So it starts for kids that are in the 4th grade, which he'll be in next year. So it was literally this week that I put him on the waiting list. So hopefully he can get into that next year and be with, a group of kids that are really interested in trains as well. And he can talk about the steam engine and the locomotive and the caboose and everything to his heart's delight with, other kids that are into that as well.
That is such a beautiful example of honoring their spins, because that's what we exactly want to do. Now, one thing to note is when it comes to special interests as well, is how this child is processing language and processing these spins and taking in the environment. So Gestalt cognitive processing, I very barely, it's like touched on it, is our children learning in episodes. So when a child wants to tell you their info dump on this spin, and it might be the same phrase or same way that they say it from start to finish, locomotives, steam engines in a certain way. If we break that in any point and tell them to stop, it really causes a lot of anxiety and angst. So what we want to do is make small redundant change, like redundancy is important. Changing the environment just a little bit so they have that flexibility of thought. And we can do that by giving them these opportunities where they can just info dump. First, we just need to get it out, because it might be some of my friends will need to sing the alphabet from a certain YouTube clip from start to end. And that is one chunk of language. It's one episode. So that's one thing to consider too. Like, we want to make sure that we're really honoring that and we're helping support that cognitive processing.
Right.
I love that you have him enrolled in the 4-H. And there's a mini, there's I think it was like world's largest train.
Yeah,
indoor
Northland.
train.
Oh yeah,
Northland.
we've been there. It's Northlands is actually on the way to his developmental pediatrician at Hunter in Flemington. So we literally have to drive past there every time. And he's like, "Oh, Mom, this is where we went for my birthday in Northland." Yeah, we've been there.
Which is
Great.
incredible. There's actually another miniature train store I passed by somewhere. It's in New Jersey. So going to these places where they make those miniature train tracks, and there's only limited places that sell miniature train sets and stuff, would be a great place too, where he can just talk and look and see and connect with other individuals. And if he loves Minecraft, oh, there's so many wonderful Minecraft clubs that children can do. I know at my children's school, there's a Minecraft club too.
Right. One question that I had, and I guess this is why we've made more of this connection to, have him be in situations with his interests, is because he's in a gen ed setting. So he's while we may not interrupt him, he's with other peers that may not understand that. And, especially like if he's in aftercare and we get into like, okay, be quiet, you're annoying. So it's kind of like, my husband and I thinking of ways for us to kind of make him feel better or to keep building up his self-esteem when he may be in situations where the kids are not as tolerant for his, lesson on Minecraft or trains or things like that.
Do you have any suggestions on that? And I can share what I'm thinking.
Yeah. How old is he, first of all?
He'll be 9 in a couple of weeks. So he's 8.
What kind of strategies does he already use?
What kind of strategies does he use for what? What do you mean?
Yeah, to talk to people. Like, have you given him any strategies to like sort of check in with other people?
So, in situations where he's, come to us and said, oh, they don't want me to hang with them. He might be with some 5th graders in aftercare, so he's with older kids as well. And he wants to fit in with them. And I would imagine that he kind of just speaks and doesn't kind of have a gauge of when, okay, they're not really interested. So I've seen, at least with us, he will, or with my daughter, he'll just go on and she's lost interest. So we say, okay, Justin, it's great that you learned this new fact, but why don't you ask Sasha if she's interested in hearing any more about this? And if she's not, then, just kind of move on. But some people might want to hear a little something, but not a whole, gamut of things. So
Yeah,
that's
and
we've talked with him about.
yeah, and you can also sort of give him some body cues to look at if he's not understanding the verbal or the, like how long would people be interested, or what does it look like when someone's paying attention? What does it look like when they're not paying attention? Something like that from a body point of view.
Yeah. Many autistic individuals, especially if they are minority individuals, will say that they need to be taught to mask, like it is survival mode for them. And masking is the ability to be able to mirror the other person, take that turn taking, be able to know what setting I'm in, because they don't have the luxury to completely unmask and be able to go on their spins the entire time and talk about it the entire time. So it's very important that we still have to teach our children when they can unmask fully and be themselves, because that's ideally the goal. Our goal is to just have our children 100% be themselves, but that unfortunately is not the world that they live in, or the world that we live in right now. So yeah, this is going to be a skill that we're needing to address with the child, but also be able to create that space. For example, those 4-H clubs where he can completely unmask and be himself and tell you everything about it. You might be like, oh, I'm tired of listening to the same thing, but they are just so passionate and love it so much that we just need to create that space for them. So yeah, it's a fine dance that we have to do with our children when it comes to that, because we still want to protect them and create these safe opportunities for them.
Yeah, and just making that, which is hard for them to understand, more concrete with like really small steps and little small things they can do. Like I said, reading looking at the body language, or even like if they need to use an internal timer or something like that. So he doesn't feel rejected.
Really nice message, Victoria.
Yeah.
Thank you. She said, ladies, you're amazing. I wish more therapists were like you. Hearing you speak with such empathy to our neurodivergent kids is music to my ears. Thank you for being open to autistic voices. Thank you for that. We absolutely love what we do, and we're here to honor children and families, and we want to create safe spaces for them. And this is very important. And I didn't realize that until I became a parent. When I was in the opposite side of the waiting room, and I had to drive my children around to PTOT speech services, and they would come at me and be like, your kid isn't doing so and so and so and so. And I'm like, but did you see the incredible things that they are doing? And it's kind of led us down this journey of being part of this neurodiversity affirming movement. So we're really here to support you. If any of you all have any questions or would like to learn about our Connect and Play program, we highly encourage you to reach out to us, email us, and I love getting messages. I'm on Instagram, one-on-one speech therapy. You can send me a message or email me at Farwa at one-on-one speech therapy. We would love to connect with you. Thank you all so much for joining us. If there's any other questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Do you have any additional resources in regards to creating and developing friendships? A wonderful SLP speaks about it, Carolyn Gaddy. But there's very limited resources and research on this topic. So we are really kind of the pioneers right now with our Connect and Play program on observing our children and creating these safe spaces for them. So it's a lot of it is, and what the researchers, when a research article comes out, it takes about 17 years for implementation of it. So really trying to fill in those gaps. I have a quick question about interoception and speech. Yes, feel free to ask our question because we're both here. I'm the speechy and we got the OT.
Thank you so much. It was really helpful to hear this. My son is about close to 4. He'll be 4 in April. He has an autism diagnosis. We've been like struggling with potty training for almost over a year now. And I think it's something to do with him recognizing his body signals. And in school, like with a timer, he's able to go like, almost without accents, but like something about him verbally saying I need to go, that hasn't yet clicked. Like, I'd love to hear your perspective on this.
So I'm going to let Nina talk about that interoception potty training piece, because anytime parents have a potty training question, I refer it to OT, and then I'll chime in on the communication part of it.
Yeah, so part of potty training is body awareness. So is he getting any kind of OT services already?
He's getting OT in school at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely working on that body awareness piece is important. Having him slow down and feeling the body, the parts of his body, and kind of retraining how to listen to those signals. And I think a lot of the kids with the toileting is they're not noticing that they have to go, and then it's all of a sudden they have to go, or they have an accident. So we're having to work with kids to create more space, and then just overall regulation. So have your occupational therapist kind of look at his sensory profile and see if he needs to be more in tune, sped up a little bit. Is he distracted and he needs to be more, he needs to be taught to be more sensitive to his own body signals? Or is he a seeker and he's all over the place and it needs to be slowed down so he can really stop and have his brain register those signals? And then also, I would recommend right before he goes to the toilet, if you can catch it, is really describing how it feels.
Okay.
Right. So we're really having to slow down and teach these children what the feelings are and where they're coming from. Which is sort of a very abstract idea, but it's the same as Farwa's story about like, oh, your stomach hurts. Like sometimes when you're feeling nervous, your stomach hurts. So you're really having to break these emotions down into really small, manageable steps, because the big picture is harder.
And one important note for occupational therapy and speech therapy in the schools, there has to be an academic need. So it might be the occupational therapist is working on more academic based, fine motor control, pencil writing, sitting in the chair. Then bringing up that option for potty training is all about sensory integration, and many schools are still having difficulty having the occupational in the loop or giving them the additional trainings for that. So if we're having trouble with that potty training piece and your occupational therapist is not able to address it, it might be something that we need to do privately, unfortunately, because not all occupational therapists are trained in sensory regulation, because it is not in their scope for academic reasons. So for speech therapy in a school setting, you need to have a delay in both receptive expressive language. Like there's a criteria that children have to meet. So building goals on trust and natural communication is a little bit harder for school-based therapists. Now, when it comes to communication during potty training, where Nina says we really want to attach that meaning to it and the feeling, and we're going to be modeling language along with those feelings as they're doing it. So if he's communicating with an AAC device, I'm going to touch the button, gotta go potty. every single time and model that same language so that we're building that and we're making sure that we're using all their cognitive processing and we're harnessing that power. So we're going to create that same routine every time initially, so that way they're attaching meaning to it. It might be the same phrase, I gotta go potty. So instead of using a single word, potty, toilet, go, flush, we want to make sure we're putting it in phrases. And we're going to use kid-like language and we're going to speak as if we're them. So it's, I gotta go pee, my stomach hurts, oh, I'm all wet. This is going to feel a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning because we're not used to addressing our children this way and we're not used to speaking in first person as if we're them. So we want to make sure that we're setting up that environment as ready to train as well. Now, if you're on a timer at school and the timer rings and they haven't had any accidents, then we're doing a lot more compliance-based services, right? We're having them attach the bell to that feeling instead of the feeling to I gotta go potty. So one thing that was so beautiful to see in that Connect and Play program is when we gave the children the opportunity to listen to themselves on the inside, they were being, as the week progressed, they'd be like, I feel something, I gotta go to the bathroom. I feel something, I'm feeling hungry, let's go eat. So we wanted to make sure we're really attaching a solid, tangible thing to the words, like my stomach is feeling full.
Or if if you're not even able to get to that step, if you're in it, if you're still dealing with diapers, then really having the child feel, oh, my diaper is wet. This is what, like this feels wet, this feels cold, this feels uncomfortable. And then also when you're cleaning, like break that down into sensations. First it was wet, it felt dirty, now it's clean, like really breaking it down for them.
Can I add to that as a parent? Sorry, my microphone was not working before, so I had something to say in regards to what someone said earlier, so I'll go back to that. But I want to add, for potty training, my daughter is 4 and she surprised me because she took only 4 days to be potty trained, and I was shocked out of my mind. I didn't think it was going to happen, but she surprised me beautifully. But what I had done prior to her, just like full on potty training, taking off the diaper and going, taking her to the bathroom if she needed to go or if she told me she needed to go, was that I had broken it down that we were already practicing sitting on the potty, or like what Nina just said, like I was already using phrases in terms of describing when she was using it, and then she would repeat them to me because she is a GLP learner. We see Miss Farwa, and she's made like such amazing progress in terms of language. But in terms of potty training, we had already established that kind of understanding, or at least I was modeling that language for her, where if she did go, I was like, oh, we have to go to the bathroom, we're gonna wash. So every time she used the bathroom, we would sit her down on the potty and wash her. And she was doing it herself. Like even before I asked her, she would go and sit on the toilet and wait for me to wash her. And then when we started to potty train, it was like magic. Like, I don't think we had more than 2 accidents, but I didn't also push her prior to. I kept on just modeling the language and, kind of encouraging her to use the bathroom and telling her where it was, even when we were out, like just naming the things and how we're doing it and the feelings. And I thought that really helped lead up to this point of where she just took 4 days and was potty trained.
What an amazing example of a child-led experience.
Yeah.
And how in tune you were with her body. Yeah.
Thank you. That's always been my effort as well. And then going back to the special interest, if that's okay, what I have found, and I knew nothing about having or being even aware of neurotypical or neurodivergent individuals prior to having an autistic child. Like, I think that she has changed my perspective to the world in general. But through her, I've learned that, like, I have to be the person to advocate what my child needs and what for them to be able to basically be their authentic self no matter where they are. And right now she's only in preschool, so I've not had to deal with, you know, older age kids and how they interact just yet. But speaking to the teacher or other parents around when I'm in public or like at play dates, if there are older kids playing with her and she's trying to play with them, I kind of just like take over the language piece only when I feel that other people aren't understanding or becoming uncomfortable. So I don't want my child to feel uncomfortable. So instead of telling other people instead of telling my child like this is the time you stopped interacting or stop speaking or doing whatever it is that she's doing, I'm like, oh wow, what you're doing that amazingly. I talk to my child, but I'm also sending the message to other parents like, you still want to play in the sand? That's cool. Okay, we can play with the sand. I'll play with you. If somebody else is not playing with her, I'll just continue to play with her. And that tells the other parent or other child, like, okay, like that's still what she wants to do. That's cool. All right. Like, she can still do it, but I don't have to, you know? So in school specifically, I communicate what I know my child best needs to the adults, to the caretakers, to the key teachers or the staff. And my hope is that that's what they're doing for her in situations like that, if that makes any sense. Sorry if I took up too
What
much
a
time.
beautiful, beautiful
No, no.
example. No,
Yeah.
we'd love to hear that because this is what parents need to hear too, because they feel empowered to advocate for their child. This is all about neurodiversity affirming practices, which is you do so, so beautifully. And we're letting the child lead and we're honoring them and they're amazing and wonderful. And we want to make sure we're giving them that opportunity to do so.
Thank you. And in a lot of situations, I've found that it's just the lack of understanding from the other adults' part. Like they don't know what to do from that
Mhm.
point on because they've never had to interact with someone like that before, you know?
Mhm.
So it's also a teaching opportunity. So if we ever do interact with them again, they now know what to do with my
Mhm.
child. And they and some people have appreciated that because even when I look back, like I had autistic individuals within my own family, but for cultural reasons, I feel like their parents were not comfortable enough in sharing what was happening with them or how to build a connection with them. And that actually makes me really sad to know that because had we been taught or told this is how my child likes to communicate or interact, it would have been so much easier for all of us to feel included. And, you know, like nobody would have been left out and nobody would have felt half as uncomfortable as they might have felt in a certain situation.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I love that. I love that. And I love that you're teaching other parents. So you're being a role model to everybody around you. And that's what we want. We want
Thank
to
you
create
so
this
much.
community. You're doing such a wonderful job.
Thank you.
So I am going to end our call. For those that are on, we do have this recorded and Dr. Joni will share the recording to the members that could not and the participants that are and parents that are wanting to listen in. Thank you all for hanging out with us at night, sharing your experiences. We are so, so grateful for you all. And thank you for being so incredible. We see you. We
Thank you
are
so
you.
much.
Yeah, we are you.
We get it. And hope you all have a wonderful night. Talk
Good
to you all
You
night.
as
soon.
well. Take care.
Great
Thank you
night.
for your
Thank
time.
you.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.